Welcome to the first episode of our special three-part series, Regulate, Rewire, Rise, where I'm walking you through the exact shifts that help you grow your business without burning out. I'm your host, Gloria Lichon, and in this first step, Regulate, we're talking about why hustle isn't your growth strategy and what to do instead so you can expand your capacity before you even touch your strategy. Because here's the truth, you can't plan or lead effectively if your body and mind are stuck in survival mode. So the first step, Regulate, is all about creating the safety and space that you need to lead like the CEO you're becoming. And I remember going through this process myself a few years ago, around 2021, when I was working late nights, most of the night doing admin, billing, and all the other things that are required as the service provider and the business owner. And for a moment, I did think this is what it takes. The hustle is what we need to get to the next level. And while, yes, we were successful, I did start to go into that overwhelm mode. My energy was depleting and our growth started to stall. I started to hit a wall and I realized that although I was hustling, that hustle wasn't building momentum. It built dependency. And that's why today I want to unpack why that happens and what we can do instead. And in our society, hustle culture does sell us the story that if we just outwork everyone, you'll win. But if we're really honest, if that were true, wouldn't every exhausted entrepreneur be widely successful? And wouldn't burnout be something of the past that we don't even have to think about? Wouldn't scaling start to feel easier the harder we worked? We're often sold the highlight reels of the hustle, the late nights, the early mornings, the pushing past the limits without really understanding what that means, without being told the fine print. A hustle might get you a short term spike, but it's not a sustainable strategy. And it might bring you quick wins, but it does often leave you with that long term depletion. And in many cases, it keeps you so busy that you can't even actually grow or enjoy the things that you're building this business and life for, the things that are most important to you. And the hustle keeps you in survival mode. The real problem with hustle as a strategy is that hustling is reactive, not strategic. You're often putting out fires, not building the systems that you need. You're always managing the chaos instead of creating the clarity and space that you need to build that momentum to really make your vision come to life. Hustle runs on urgency, not clarity. Decisions often come from fear of falling behind, not from the vision that you're truly wanting to create. Hustle often ignores capacity, so you assume that you can just keep stacking and doing without ever really reinforcing the foundation that you need to build something that's sustainable. And eventually that weight becomes too much. So I want to give you a visualization. I want you to think of your business as a container. Hustle keeps pouring more water in, more clients, more projects, more opportunities. But if that container is cracked or if it's too small, it starts to spill over. And that's what happens when we keep pushing without expanding our capacity first. You end up spending more time cleaning up the mess of the water spilling over than enjoying what's inside the container, what you're truly building this for. And here's the piece that no one ever really talks about. Hustle doesn't just drain your schedule, it actually starts to rewire your body. So every time you're operating in that go mode, you trigger your nervous system to really start to flip into survival mode, into fight, flight, or freeze. So your body really can't tell the difference between am I missing a deadline or there's a lion chasing me. And the same stress hormones start to flood your system. So yes, while you can push through for a while, but long term, your system will start to slow you down to protect you. And that starts to look like brain fog, decision fatigue, procrastination, even just the sudden loss of your motivation. And it's not because you're lazy, but your body is starting to pull the brake. You can't build a peaceful business from a panic state and expect it to magically feel calm when you arrive. You have to build with the energy you want to sustain. If you want a business that feels grounded, profitable, peaceful, and joyful, you need to start leading from that place now, not when you feel like you finally have time, because you'll just continue that hamster wheel. So let's take a moment to pause for a few seconds. I want you to think about what's one area of your business where you've been relying on hustle over strategy or over just simply giving yourself the space that you need. And how has it actually felt in your body? So, if hustle isn't the answer, then let's talk about what is. Because again, here's the truth: you can't scale from survival mode. When your body feels unsafe, whether that's because of financial stress, deadlines, or just the endless mental to do list, it will unconsciously hold you back, no matter how much you say you want growth. And while you might think that you are being strategic, your body isn't running on that same strategy. When our bodies are in a stress state, you often are in short term thinking, reactive decision making, overcommitting, overworking, and we're often in that people pleasing mode. We're chasing urgent tasks that don't actually move the needle forward. But when we're able to function more on that regulated state, we start to expand our creativity, we start to expand our capacity, we start to expand that big picture vision, we make more confident decisions, and our patients start to let the strategies work and delegation actually sticks. Now, let's talk about what actually happens in our day to day life when our nervous system is maxed out. You say yes to things you don't actually want to do because that conflict makes you feel unsafe. You'll start to abandon the strategies before they even start to work because waiting feels unsafe to you. And then you start second guessing yourself into paralysis because that risk starts to feel unsafe as well. But when your nervous system is regulated, everything starts to shift. You make decisions quickly and more clearly. You lead your team with calm authority. You can actually hold more clients, more revenue, more responsibility without crumbling under the weight of it. You build your capacity. And these are a few day to day examples of what it can look like when you're in survival mode versus regulation. If you're in the survival mode CEO, you're checking emails first thing in the morning and you're reacting to every notification, starting to put out the fires without giving yourself space. And then you end the day wondering what actually got done. When you're in the regulated CEO mode, you start the day with a grounded practice. You focus on the most important things first, the deep work, the needle movers. And then you're able to leave extra space for strategic thinking. And physically, as the survival mode CEO, and you might start to feel tightness around your chest before going into meetings, before going into sales calls, and you really start to push through just on the adrenaline. And as the regulated CEO, you use that time before your meetings to do some breath work, to have calm, peace, and tranquility before you show up to the meeting. So that way you can show up more grounded, more present, and actually enjoy what you're doing. So let's think of this as upgrading the electrical wiring in your system before you plug in more appliances. Without that upgrade, adding more will trip all the breakers every single time because you are the wiring in your business. If you can't hold the current, more clients or more opportunities, it would only create more stress for you. So I want you to anchor into this statement. The more I regulate, the more I can receive, lead, and grow without burning out in the process. And let's take another moment to do a quick reflection. Where do you notice your body going into survival mode in your business? Are you rushing the launches? Are you overbooking yourself and not really realizing that you have control over your schedule? Are you constantly checking emails even before you give yourself space? Just notice it without judgment. So now let's talk about how do we actually break up with the hustle and start growing from alignment. This is where my three-step framework comes in and something I truly try to live by myself and also teach the women that I have the honor of supporting. The three-part framework is regulate, rewire, and rise. So, first, for regulate, think of this as hitting the pause button before you do anything else. When you're in hustle mode, your nervous system is running the show. It's always in fight, flight, or freeze. And that's not where your best decisions come from. So, regulation starts with a pause before big decisions. Even if it's just 60 seconds of deep breathing, grounding your feet, unclenching your jaw, or shaking out your body, that makes a difference. That single minute tells your brain you're safe. This isn't an emergency. I can think clearly now. And that's something that we could easily do throughout our day. Just take those 60 seconds to regulate our nervous system. But the real magic comes in when we don't just regulate in emergencies or when we have that thing to do. You really need to make it your baseline. And here are some ideas that you can implement today as part of your daily regulation practices. First, you can start with a morning grounding ritual. So before you pick up your phone, before you look at your emails, take 3 to 5 deep breaths, step outside, get some sun on your face, and just notice the things that you can see, hear, and feel. Next, try to implement some quick micro breaks. Every 90 minutes, pause your work, stretch, get a sip of water, take a quick lap around your house or even if you can outside. It doesn't have to be a long break, but just making sure that you're taking time to regulate when you're doing your tasks is really important. Next, you could incorporate a sensory reset. So keep a calming playlist easily accessible on your computer or on your phone. Maybe add some essential oils or your favorite candle scent, or have one of your favorite warm beverages handy for those quick resets. And also, it's important to do quick body check ins. Notice a tension in your jaw, your shoulders, your posture, and release it several times a day. I know I personally try to notice this myself, and it really does help me just feel more grounded and calm. And then, just like in the morning, having a evening ritual can really help you decompress. So, start with maybe 5 minutes of journaling, gentle stretching, or just simply sitting quietly before you're transitioning out of that work mode. So remember, a regulated CEO is a decisive CEO. Calm is not weakness, it's leadership. So I want you to think about this. What would change if you took just 60 seconds before every big decision and built small moments throughout your day to come back into your body first? The second step of the framework is rewire. Hustle has its own set of beliefs, and it's been feeding all of us for years and decades. And those beliefs run on autopilot because they start to become what we believe. So if you want to lead differently, you need to change those defaults. We can't just be on autopilot anymore. Hustle says, my worth is my work. But we can change that around in an alignment reframe where it says, I'm valuable whether I take the day off or not. Hustle also often tells us if we slow down, that we'll fall behind. But we can reframe that into rest expands my capacity so I can lead with clarity and strength. These aren't just nice quotes, they're the mental shifts that actually change how your brain responds to pressure. But you can't just hear them once, you have to practice them daily. And some quick daily rewiring practices that you can use are having a morning mantra swap. So before you start work, repeat 1 to 2 alignment truths out loud, replacing any hustle thoughts that start to come to mind. And this is a really important one that you can implement any time of the day is reframing in real time. When you catch yourself thinking, I don't have time to rest, I just need to push through, swap it with rest will help me show up stronger. You can also keep a running note of proof that slowing down didn't hurt you, the times when rest or aligned choices actually created better results. And you can also do a language audit. The words that we speak to ourselves are so important. So pay attention to how you talk about your work. Replace with I have to with I choose to shift from obligation to ownership. So, rewiring is about becoming the kind of leader whose internal script supports the life and business you want, not the one hustle taught you to chase. And finally, we rise. This is where we take action, but not panic action and not busy work action. We take aligned action. The From this regulated, rewired place, the way you move through your day shifts. You make choices from clarity instead of fear, and from focus instead of chaos. And some quick daily rising practices that you can start with are starting your day with understanding what your needle movers are. And this is something that I really focus in on with the ladies I get to support through coaching and empower to scale, is understanding what's most important, what's actually going to move the needle forward and drive momentum. So each morning, pick 1 to 3 high impact actions that align with your quarterly vision and do them before anything else. Then lead with clarity. Before meeting your team or sending an email, ask, what's the outcome I want here? The next daily practice is really important. We need to learn to protect our capacity. Block time on your calendar for creative thinking, relationship building, and rest, not just delivery and execution. Check alignment before saying yes. Committing to something new, always ask, does this move me toward my vision or pull me away from it? And lastly, celebrate your daily progress. It's so important for us to celebrate our wins, big or small. So end your day by naming 1 or 2 wins, no matter how small, to really anchor in the fact that aligned action does compound. So when you rise from this place, your marketing feels authentic, your leadership feels steady, and your growth is sustainable because you're not burning yourself out to get there. So let's take a moment to pause and reflect and ask yourself, if you took one small step this week from calm instead of chaos, what would it be? And remember, aligned CEOs don't hustle harder. They lead from clarity, capacity, and calm. This was the first episode of our 3-part series, Regulate, Rewire, Rise. So next week, we'll move into step 2, Rewire, where I'll show you how to replace hustle-driven beliefs with alignment-driven truths so strategy actually sticks. Until then, remember, the more regulated you are, the more you can receive, lead, and grow. And if this resonated with you, I've created something to help you take the first step, the Calm CEO Blueprint. It's your guide to regulating before you strategize so you can stop planning from survival mode and start building from alignment. You'll get simple nervous system resets, identity shifts, and CEO rituals you can actually use today. And you can check the show notes to get the link to download the Calm CEO Blueprint. If you love this episode, share it on Instagram and tag me at Glory Lichon. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway. And remember, hustle isn't a strategy, alignment is. So until next time, stay calm, stay clear, and lead like the CEO you're meant to be.